MS Now's Laura Barone-Lopez is covering the White House. MS Now political analyst Jon Tester served as a Democratic senator from Montana. Here with me in studio, Michael Weiss, editor of The Insider and author of the book ISIS, Inside the Army of Terror. It's great to have all of you here. Laura, tell us what else we heard from the president.
Chris, the president in this conversation with Stephanie Ruhle did what he's done a lot since he launched this attack on Iran, which is offered a range of contradictions about what exactly he thinks will be the ultimate end goal here and what he has been able to accomplish versus what they haven't accomplished so far. And in that frame, when we're talking about the fact that the president has repeatedly said that Iran was obliterated, that the nuclear capabilities were obliterated last summer, but then going on to say that no, not quite yet. And so in his interview with Stephanie Ruhle, the president said, quote, from my standpoint, the major thing is that they cannot have a nuclear weapon. So we obliterated it. By the way, we totally obliterated. But you still have the nuclear dust, I call it. You know, it's buried right now. It's dangerous. You don't want to have people because they can unbury it with a lot of work. But it's totally buried, but they can unbury it. And we don't want that. Now, what the president appears to be referring to there is this enriched uranium that is buried in tunnels, and it was one of the things that that was used as a justification for the launch of this war by administration officials. That enrichment of uranium, those stockpiles of uranium that Iran maintains, which is about 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium that is believed to be buried in these tunnels. And when our own Von Hilliard asked the president just a few weeks ago if it was necessary to seize that buried enriched uranium for this war to be over, the president wouldn't address it. So again, whether it's in his conversation with Stephanie Ruhle or other questions that the press has posed to him, the president is not laying a very firm, hard line on exactly what success looks like in Iran and what it could mean for an end to this war.
Yeah, I think your phrase, a range of contradictions, has been the one constant since we went to war in Iran. So, Michael, it's good to have you here, first of all. So if the goal is no nuclear, we don't want them to be able to rebuild in 10 years. And you already have Republicans who we just heard saying no to $200 billion. $200 billion might just be the start, right?
It could be. I mean, keep in mind, the security assistance military aid the United States has given to Ukraine from the start of the full-scale invasion in 2022 until now is about $66 billion. So the Ukrainians are looking at this with eye-watering envy. I mean, what about us? We're the victims here. We were invaded in a war that the entire world has basically declared solidarity with, and you're now going to war with Iran. Most Americans are not in favor of this. You haven't gotten approval by Congress. And, you know, this is starting to look like what we call mission creep, right? You know, oh, just $200 billion here. And then what if we put in a Marine Expeditionary Unit into Karg Island and they come under attack to go and get the enriched uranium, which is buried under thousands of tons of rubble and mountain? That sounds to me like a ground incursion. So are we going to be spending special forces?
Most military experts say you can't do it without boots on the ground.
Exactly. So the potential here for this to not only spiral out of control, but to last a very, very long time, do that which Donald Trump not only campaigned on, but insisted this was going to be a sort of one-and-done quick operation. J.D. Vance said go in hard and go in fast. I don't know. Everybody with a military background I'm talking to says this is how it starts, you know, and then it gets longer and longer and more expansive.
So, Senator, gas prices in your home state are up to $3.51, but across the country, $3.91. The International Energy Agency is now encouraging people not to drive. Don't go to work. Work from home. Save gas. And here's what Minnesota Republican Senate candidate Michelle Tafoya said about the burden that taxpayers are feeling right now.
I think right now, at least just kind of keeping a stiff upper lip. Maybe you take one less trip to Starbucks, and so that gas goes a little further until this thing is over and these gas prices come back down again. Let's just try to be patriots about this.
I don't know how many not taking trips to Starbucks it would take to come to $200 billion, but there's a Reuters Ipsos poll that shows 59% of Americans disagree with the war flat out. 65%, though, believe there will be ground troops. Is what we just heard the kind of messaging that's going to get the American people behind this war?
I really doubt it. And what about those folks who don't go to Starbucks? What do they give up? Do they give up their medicine or their food, or what do they give up? Look, if I was still in Congress, there's a couple questions I would be asking and demanding answers for. Number one, what's the plan and what's the exit strategy? And I don't think they've gotten either one of those yet. And then the next question I would ask is who's going to pay for it? Is our kids going to pay for it, or are we going to tax some of the folks that got the uber rich who got the tax break here 6-8 months ago? Look, $200 billion is a number, but it is a lot of money. You talked about what it could do in Atlanta and other places around the country, but the bottom line is this: we are in a war. There's not been a plan that's been explained about what's going to happen, what we're going to do, and how we're going to get out. It's been talked in generalities, and I have not heard an exit plan whatsoever. If we've learned anything over the last 25 years, it's that Middle East wars tend to bog down, and we tend to spend a bunch of money as American taxpayers. It increased costs not only for gas, but for food, for fertilizer, all the above. And unless there's a plan, this thing could go on forever.
Yeah, let me ask you about that plan to potentially pay for it, given your experience in the U.S. Senate. I want to play what one of your former colleagues, Pennsylvania Republican Scott Perry, said when he was asked who should ultimately pay for all this.
I support the president. I support this action. But at the same time, we've got to pay for this. So how is this going to be dealt with? I would actually like to see Iran pay for this, whether it's $20 billion or $200 billion, whatever it is.
You want to see whatever this costs the U.S. taxpayer, whatever the Pentagon does come to you and ask for, to be offset by Iran?
Well, I think we got to pay for this somehow, right? We don't have endless money.
Is Iran the answer, Senator? Pay the U.S. $200 billion for waging a war against it?
Let me just put it this way. This is very, very parallel to Mexico is going to pay for a wall on the southern border. I don't see how you can realistically say that Iran's going to pay for this war unless you're going to take Iran over and take their oil. Truthfully, it's just not going to happen. The American taxpayer, or more likely the American taxpayer's children, are going to end up paying for this war. And like I said before, Chris, unless there's a plan that is very, very well talked about and executed with an exit strategy, this could go on for a long time. And those gas prices, even if the war ended tomorrow, it's going to be months and months and months before those gas prices fall. The Strait of Hormuz is a big part of the energy in the world, and it doesn't look like that's going to be normalized very, very quickly. That's for sure.
And even, Michael, if you could get Congress to sign off on this, you'd think they might want to know, what are we signing off on $200 billion for? And even though yesterday the president said they've been judicious, there haven't been a lot of figures that I've seen other than, the often quoted figure that it cost the U.S. about $2 million to shoot down a $20 or $30 million drone, a $20 or $30,000 drone.
Yeah.
So what's even going to pay for?
Well, I mean, we have to sustain this campaign, right? I mean, there's been a lot of chatter in the media about we're running out of munitions we would need if, for instance, we wanted to defend Taiwan, if the Chinese decided to do something like this. I just saw before coming on the show.
Yesterday, the president said we have plenty of those.
We have plenty of those, right? I just saw a Ukrainian specialists who've been dispatched to the Middle East are looking at what the U.S. is doing. They're firing, in some cases, 6, 7, 8 Patriot missiles, interceptors at targets. They cannot believe what they're seeing because they simply could not afford that burn rate, right? I mean, we're firing these things at drones. There are other mechanisms and means by which you can shoot down drones, including with shotguns and counter drones, right? My concern is, yes, the amount of money that's going into this with no clearly stated objective. I know what the military operational objectives are. They're pretty clear about this. We want to destroy the ballistic missile program. We want to eliminate the nuclear program. And we also want to ensure that Iran cannot project its power in the form of these manifold sectarian militias that have spread out all across the Middle East, including Lebanese Hezbollah and the Iraqi consortium known as the Hashd al-Shaabi. Okay, but what happens when you call it a day and go home? The Israelis have a term for this. It's called mowing the lawn, which implies they keep coming back and cutting the grass. Does this mean we're going to say mission accomplished? He's already said we've won the war, right? He says, we're done here, we finished. And yet he's begging NATO to come in and do what he calls a simple military maneuver in securing the Strait of Hormuz. It's not simple, and there's a good reason that NATO allies don't want to go into a kill box seizing Karg Island, right? This is what I was referring to before, mission creep. So it's not only the cost in terms of treasure, but there's also going to be a cost in terms of blood. American servicemen and women are going to be dispatched on the ground in some form, and some of them are going to die. And what is his response going to be to that? You know, I already won the war, but sorry, your sons and daughters got killed after mission was declared accomplished.